My fiance and I both have good paying jobs. We live here in LA, and it's so difficult for us to be able to afford a house, and we simply just don't want to spend hours commuting back and forth to work every day, so we'd rather live close to work.
Since 2000, wages in California have gone down 7%, while housing costs on average have gone up 24%. At the same time, we've had 700,000 more renter households looking for rental housing without a whole lot of production happening. And that makes for a perfect storm.
Housing has always been our #1 issue that CEOs raise as being a chief part of the difficulties that they face competing in California. And traffic is #2. And when we see that our housing is far away from our job centers, we see the resulting traffic congestion.
What's important to remember is even as we need to work on solutions that will increase the supply of housing more broadly, that won't reach the people who are our lowest income.
For me, it affected everything in my life. It helped me to get a job, to feel like a person, a human again.
California is in the midst of a very intense affordable housing crisis. We have the highest poverty rate in the country when you include housing costs. This is in part a situation that was brought about by significant cuts to our budget and what we invest in housing. There are many of us who are legislators who believe that we need to make a significant investment this year.
Now the problem is much, much bigger than that. And so it's going to take all kinds of answers in order to reduce the cost and increase the supply of housing for people at the low and the middle income range.
It is striking that people are predictably commuting 2 hours to work each way, particularly workforce housing, so our nurses and our teachers and our public servants. In cities, we need our teachers and our public servants to be living in our communities with us.
There's simply no way we can achieve our climate goals as a state if we don't stop sprawling and start creating affordable housing and housing at all levels in our existing communities.
Housing wouldn't be as expensive to build if the regulatory environment wasn't so difficult. And we should do everything we can to try and reduce the costs and headaches to increase the supply of housing for all Californians.
Well, I don't think there's a single silver bullet for the housing problem. It's a series of solutions. So you have to have land to build housing on. You need to have money to help make that housing affordable to folks at the lowest end of the spectrum. You need to have local zoning ordinances and approvals that actually promote and encourage the development of that housing. And you need to have leadership in California. You know, we need folks in the legislature and in the governor's office to say that housing is important. And so you can't just solve it with one thing, you have to solve it with a menu of things.
And that's what the summit has stepped in to do. The Economic Summit elevated this as a priority this year, and we've started to convene those local government leaders, those community activists, the smart and assertive builders that know how to solve this problem. And we're going to use those leaders working together to come up with the comprehensive solutions.
We can't wait because we have a quarter of our country's homeless veterans in California, because we have 500,000 kids who are homeless, because 1.5 million families in California can't afford to live here in our state.
At all levels of government, elected officials are thinking about this because they're hearing from constituents that this is a real crisis.
If we can't solve the housing piece, not only will housing be out of reach for many Californians, but we won't be able to maintain the strong economic and job growth that draws and keeps people to California, that literally defines the California dream.
It's obvious. So I would, think that the legislators, the politicians, they see what I see. And I would just tell them, do what you can, because you can do something.
Jeff and I are both born and raised here in California, and part of our dream is to own a home and raise a family here, and I just don't know if that dream is going to be able to come true.